Sometimes I get like this weird lost look in my eye. But this is important than some of my other videos, and also maybe the beginning to the rest of my financial future. So, before we get any deeper, let me give you some facts. Okay. I owned the domain infinitemathdies.com for 3 years. Me as a sole proprietorship, and when I learned it wasn't making any money, like I wasn't having sales, it wasn't being seen. They just kept telling me that it had a lot of uh like what's the word, crawlers, or uh like I just that's why I paid so much money, like in my mind, like I may know now that maybe I was stupid, but Wix.com, Wix.com, because I had like a Wix.com website that I made in like 2013. And I thought, I had a good experience with their programming. I think I will purchase a domain because I at my place of employment there was some interest in some of the art that I made. Well, just about the time that I made the website, like I had made a few things for a few people. I gave out hundreds of business cards at my place of employment, at a place where this would be in high demand. And the strangest thing happened, and it scared me because I was on the computer on my Infinite Math Dies website at the it's like the door where you come in. We called it the fishbowl. And so I was checking, like my website things, what's going on. And during that time, a second menu opened with a list of orders of my items that I made. And I was freaking out. I was like, that is incredible. Like, and so I just looked, I was just, at work at the time. So I was like, I'll go home and take a look at it. And, I'm like, this can't be true. And, or, like maybe it is. And so I went home, and that panel was no longer there. That it was as if that my website were being used because it's handmade tie-dye. So like I didn't, like I'm kind of stupid, and it took me a lot of years to, put together like the, it to me, art is art. I handmade it. I put a lot of love into it, and that I am not very smart when it comes to business. Like I just want this simple reality. I would like to pay, and it was something like three, or not 3,000, 2,000 some dollars, so that I could have help with making sure that the traffic worked properly. Now, like I'm not naive anymore. I'm not stupid. And so, in a completely another realm of myself, I've done my research, and that was in 2022. 23, 24, 25. My website was shut down. I had like I a few orders ever purchased online. They were all in person. Like people that I know. My website was not usable. And throughout this time, I spent a lot of time, like trying to just learn the software by myself. Like what is all this stuff, and it was frustrating because that was the whole point of why I spent the extra money, you know, like I had a regular job the whole time, and I was like, this is, like this is my side business so that I can hopefully make art for the rest of my life and sell it. So what I am looking at now is that some people go into this knowing that they're trying to do or create a certain reality based on, like uh, information that isn't always clear. And for me, I'm very black and white. Part of me, and if you watch my channel, I had a TikTok for several years. I never made any money monetize off of any of these things, including, my handmade art. And so I'm saying, okay, now that I've learned what I know, how do I put myself back out there and realize I learned some of the difficult things people do in the world backwards, and I've backed myself up into 2022 when I first started this website, infinitemathdies.com. Like I said, it was shut down in 2025 after I had a 3-year contract, and I want to say around $2,000. And so what I know now is that, you can buy a domain for a little bit of nothing. So I'm seeking people that are educated, and I'm going to continue discussing this until I get some footing reestablished, because I just kept feeling if I just keep trusting the process, and, like part of it was I needed to be a little deeper educated. So please educate me. That's a weird question. Would you rather gain weight or gain eagers? What does that mean? You are Muslim? People keep asking me about like Araya. Like excuse me. Like I'm not any particular religion. I do have a Quran. I have a Bible. I have a Book of Mormon. I don't think that any of them are more than that's a whole nother subject. But, like I'm a little bit educated in all of those different religions and belief systems. And, like sometimes, like I'm just thinking out loud, trying to work this out. Like I feel like part of this is that, like actually answering some of these weird questions. Before I would just like ignore the weird things, but like male 34 live. See, it's things that people keep repeating. Like this like cross a and then do a backflip. Like what the heck does that mean? Like I don't know. So, whenever that I go and discover that people very heavily like F the system, it really upsets me because I have spent so much time trying to be very honest, very upfront. And, like I'll tell you the truth. I feel as if that I've almost hurt myself because I've tried so many times to make sure that what I'm learning is properly like distinguished or translated so that it does not so that my viewers can properly digest and receive it, almost dampening the potency of what some other people have done. So by making it very blunt instead of sharp, so that I can clearly represent who I am. And so all I can really do here is be honest and try to get this worked out. So, as I'm browsing to start a new domain, I'm trying to discover like my only like I know that I could, open my bank account records and it would show like how much money that I spent on 3 years of website and somebody to upkeep it for me. And so I think that part of it is this method of ingenuine disposal, like people, but see, I never picked up on that shit. Like I've been questioned like enough to make anybody crazy. And, like let's collaborate, talk to me about it. If you've got someone that knows about website design and the dark web and I don't know, I keep thinking about crawlies or crawlers. I don't know. I remember I used to get emails about you have, I don't know. I, I know that I like tried to understand it at that point in time, but I'm like, well, take them out, get them out of there. Like, I want my website. And so at that point, I just stopped getting traffic. Like, I had my website 1 out of 3 of the years, and I just no longer was getting any traffic. Like, they were just kind of like, never got any answers. And that was the whole point in spending the money. So if you know somebody that is educated in the dark web, in wix.com and wix.com, and the domain was Infinite Math Dies. It was owned by me, and I'm trying to recover what that is more clearly understood by me now versus me in 2022. So let me know. Thanks. Take care.